have to say, in thinking back on my memory, I can't remember how we came up with the title of the initiative, but we landed on making race heard. So I was gonna ask you,
I know.
it
I
was
remember.
you remember? Okay, okay, so tell the story around that,
Yeah.
making race heard, and then also in what ways have you carried the significance of the motivations or everything that went into the creation of that name and its significance? And what ways have you carried that into your work that you're doing now?
Sure. Okay. I will always remember this. So we knew that it had something related to race. We knew that this was about to be a conversation or a series of conversations. I don't know if we could have projected how many there would have been.
Yeah.
But one of our colleagues on the student union board, she so we said something about race and how do we fit this? And we started in March for social work month. And so making race heard has March in it. MARCH is like in there.
Okay.
That's how it started. And so it really clicked and we were like, okay, yeah, let's take it. And it was exactly that, right? It was about making it heard. It was about amplifying the conversation into every possible room we could be having it. And so that's where it started. And the title really stuck with us. I think for me, what has carried is noting that talked about this early on of this inside outside strategy for movement building and movement work. And for me, I work in the field of philanthropy. I have been here for a very long time. And philanthropy as itself is a humongous institution, right? And so there are different approaches. And I will never say that mine is the right way to go. It has worked for me in some ways. It has very much not worked for me in others. But what I took from being a part of, and I was in undergrad, I was very involved in student orgs, but they were more just student related and identity based groups and really just by students for students. And I would really enjoy that. But in grad school, it was more about now you're representing going into a student government position and that was the other thing. So I will say this, the reason that I went into the direction of student government was that in our school, there were no identity based groups that I could fit in. I
That's
was like,
right.
well, we're going to do this there. So wherever, whoever, whatever entity can take this work that I'm trying to help advance, let's go there. So it was student government. And as I mentioned, through that relationship, through my participation in that, I built really strong relationships and we had a lot of wonderful allies from the administrative side and the educator side. And I learned how to work with them to advance things in a much larger, more macro level. So for me, it was cool because I was studying macro social work. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm learning how to do it right now. And it was figuring out what levers can we pull to get to the things we need to see happen. And everything isn't always a yes. Like it's not like it was successful every time. And I remember one of our Spencer, what our former, I think he
He was
was
a
dean at the
dean at that
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Michael's instrumental.
professor and just wonderful human. He at that time, I remember in one of our dialogues, he had said, "They brought this to us. We told them no, and like good social workers, they did it anyway." And so it's something I really appreciated about having, and I attribute a lot of my ability to impact change to a lot of really wonderful peers, mentors, allies over time, over the course of my life that have been there in my corner to say, don't do this, or yeah, if you do, this might happen. And so it's also, again, like I can tell this story of we organized these racial justice dialogues and we had great momentum and we had great opportunity to go raise money. But let me also be clear, not everyone was trying to help us.
That's
So
right.
there's also that part of it. That is also true in my life right now, in my professional world, in my experience in philanthropy all over the country has been you see something on one side and it doesn't always the path is not always linear. I'll just put it that way. Always. But a lot of that experience for me was figuring out how do you how can you invest time in learning the system, even if you don't agree with it, even if you don't think it's the best well-made system in the world, you have to know why and how it operates in order to either fix it, break it down, start all over, abolish it, whatever the version of this is, you have to understand the context for why and how. And so for me, a lot of it along the way was figuring out, okay, how do people make decisions here? Why do they make the decisions they make? And what is my sphere of influence as a student and then as a representative on behalf of several students? What is my sphere of influence to say, people actually don't like that thing over there. So can we fix it? Or can this be moved? And something, and I'll, this is going to sound very silly. One of my, one of my platform for running was getting us new microwaves because the microwaves were so old and people would come every day to warm up their lunch. And there was just, they're out of date microwaves, right? And we just needed microwaves because that's just something people needed to warm up their lunch when they were in the building.
That's right.
And so the other thing was coat hooks in the rooms. How did we get some coat hooks? Because people were commuting and you're in graduate school and you might not live there. It sounds silly to talk about these like tiny things, but it was also figuring out, do you know how many layers of people it took to get those coat hooks? So something so small as
Just
like
for
a
that, yes.
installed on a wall in every classroom.
Mhm.
How many layers of approval? Okay, budget. Okay, we'll pay for it. You pay for it. Whoever pays for it, can we just get this? So that to me was a good example of seeing so first figure out the system, why and how it works. What is my unique role or me and my peers or my allies or this whole group of folks? What can we do? And where when on whom and what do we put pressure
Mm,
to get things done?
that's a
Whether
good
it's something
question.
simple as coat hooks or it's we need to shift our funding to something else or we need to make sure that all staff here go through some training. What is our end goal? What are we trying to see change? And then can we co-create some solutions? Because the other part of it too, the humility in doing this work is I knew one side of it or one angle of the work shape how I think about my work in philanthropy in a very the place I work is a very large institution. The field of philanthropy is growing, is a very large institution. But again, as much as I have hope and love for the work that happens within the sector, we all know the foundations of the philanthropic sector, right? There,
Mm.
those are not beautiful stories all the time to tell, right? How did this money come about?
Yeah, how did y'all get this money in the first place? Yeah.
You get to this other moment of how do you think about what these systems were designed to do and figure out what is your role to either stop making it do that, make it happen in a more thoughtful or better way, or just influence people to think differently about it all. So there's so many different angles to doing the work. And I think every approach is necessary. I don't know, I've seen that online a lot these days of just everyone can be in their own lane taking a particular approach to doing this work, and it's
Mhm.
all necessary.
Mm.
People may do things, some people may do other. So I feel like it's all necessary, even if it seems individual. I know it's all collective, it's all adding up to something bigger. But I think those experiences in grad school really set me up in a very inquisitive way, I think. I am very curious. I'm a question asker. I think I'm a very good question asker. And so I'm always wondering, like, why is the system this way? And if it has to be this way, can we make it better? And if it doesn't actually have to be this way, can we stop doing it? And so those are questions that I'm not only asking of myself in the role. You never really know what you're conditioned to think until you take a step back for a second. But
Yeah, and
uh,
question, think about it, yeah.
yeah, and then and broader in the field of philanthropy within the US and globally. Is this the way we have to do things? Have we worked thoughtfully enough and fast enough and intentionally enough to solve some of the problems that we created?
Mhm.
So there's that part of it too that I think about a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate your lesson, I'll just say, in terms of breaking down the decision making, the questioning, even starting with the microwaves and the coat hangers, because I thought it was a really good way for folks to think about, okay, so this is something that for some folks it may seem like a small thing, but just demonstrating the amount of movement sometimes it takes within organizations to make things happen. And so if we can look at these two things as an example, just imagine then the things that go into creating policy and other things. So I appreciated you highlighting that example, because I also think that when we start there at those small examples, even though everything might be different, but if we're starting there, the kind of formula, strategy, thought processes, if we can think through what it took to get that done, then we can use that as a foundation then to build on coming up with solutions to some of the more challenging problems as well.